Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Bachata Rockstar card review for the new expansion of Hearthstone, One Night in Karazhan. Or Karazhan. It's fancy. So, the basic premise of the adventure is we're having a party at Medivh's Tower. Everyone's invited, including Darth. What's up, Darth? And so it's going to be mostly party themed cards. It's going to be very interesting, very magical cards. And so let's get right to the ones that have been released. Right now it's August 1st at 2 a.m. So by the time you see this, there might be more cards. But we're just going to go through the ones that we know and that we have right now. So the first one is going to be Firelands Portal. And I'm holding my hand here so you can see the card. There it is. Look at it. It's so pretty. It's 7 mana, deal 5 damage, and summon a random 5 cost minion. So, when we review these cards, we're going to review them for two things. One for Constructed, and then two for the Arena. And each score is going to be a little different, and we're just going to score them 1 out of 10. And here we go. So, for Constructed, unfortunately, I'm probably going to give this like a 3.5 to a 4. The 7 mana cost slot is typically taken up by Flame Strike. It's too good of a card. It's in the Evergreen set, which means that it's always going to be there. So why in the world would you play this card? You'd probably only play it to get more burn. The other reason you'd want to play it is to play it in conjunction with the Faceless Summoner. 6 mana, 5/5, summon a random 3-drop. So the point of these two cards is to have tempo swings. Is to play a minion, get another minion. And then play a minion and get a 5-cost minion. So the idea is that you'll be removing one of their minions and also be playing your own. So the archetype that this sort of most easily fits into is Tempo Mage. And with Tempo Mage, you're playing Mana Worm on 1, you're playing Sorcerer's Apprentice on 2, you're probably playing Flamewaker on 3, or you might be just playing a few more spells. You're always going to sprinkle in your other spells, your Arcane Missiles, your Mirror Images, your coins, your secrets, etc., etc. At turn 5, you got your Ethereal Conjurer. And then turn 6, it starts to break down. Do you just revert to burn spells? Do you play your Kabbalist Tome? You have options. But for the most part, they're not very minion-oriented. They're not very tempo, establish something on the board-oriented. It's very much spell-oriented. And so, if your early game presence breaks down, all you have left is burn, and then you have to start using the burn on your opponent's minions as opposed to hitting them in the face, which is what you really want to do. And with this card, Firelands Portal, and with the Faceless Summoner, you're now going to be able to have tempo plays on turn 6 and turn 7 and continue to press the board and to have something on the board throughout those turns all the way up to turn 7, turn 8, turn 9, etc. Turn 8, you can play Ronin. You can play Anomalous if you really want to clear the board. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can do once you get to the really high mana cost turns. But hopefully, if you're playing Tempo Mage, you're going to end the game by turn 9 or 10, so it's not going to matter. So that's really the issue is, does it work in something like a Freeze Mage archetype? And I would say not really. Yes, it's extra burn, which helps, but it's a 7 mana burn. So even if Thorson hits it, you're still dropping 6 mana to deal 5 damage. Not really worth it. A lot of Freeze Mage decks are even cunning Forgotten Torch, which is supposed to give you extra fireballs. So I just don't see it working in a Freeze Mage type of deck. Now, however, I can see this creating a more minion-based Tempo Mage deck. And so that's the only difference, is the Tempo Mage builds that we have now, like I said, are more spell-based, and then with this card, it could potentially create a more minion-based Tempo Mage deck. Now, for the Arena, Firelands Portal, I'm going to say it now, is going to completely change the Arena. It does 5 damage, and it gives you a 5-drop. In the Arena, removal is so hard to get now just because there's so many cards. And your removal is all class cards, and they're all specific to your class. And so, because there's so many other cards, even in the common, even in the rare or epic slots, the likelihood of you picking up any one specific removal card is really low. Except now, because with the new expansion, there's going to be an expansion bonus, and because it's common, and because it's a class card, you're going to see it a lot. And so guess what? Mage is going to be the only one that has a consistent removal on turn 7. A big consistent removal that flips the board on turn 7. So not only do you have to worry about fucking Flame Strike, you have to worry about fucking Firelind's Portal. Anything with fire. Fire's bad. So Mage will almost certainly become the #1 arena class, and it won't even be close. Right now, Rogue and Mage are like 1A, 1B. Mage is going to completely overtake it with this card. I mean, just completely. And Control Mage or Tempo Flip Mage in Arena is going to be awesome. So, that's pretty much it. So let's move on to the next card. It's going to be the Curator. It's 4/6 with Taunt. And its Battlecry says it summons a Murloc, a Dragon, and a Beast. Excuse me, Beast, Dragon, Murloc. And a lot of people have thought that this card is too slow, that it requires you to have really weird cards in your deck to make it work. And, I agree with them a little bit, but I think the neatest thing about this is that it's fostering new deck archetypes and new tribal synergies. I'm a huge fan of tribal decks. I think they're really neat. I love them. I love dragon decks, I love pirate decks, I love beast decks, whatever it is. I love it. So just give me more tribal synergy. And if I can make a deck that has all the tribes, fuck yeah, I'm with it. I like this card. And the thing is, too, is there's some pretty good neutral beasts and some really good neutral dragons out there. And, there's a couple of Murlocs you might want. Off the top of my head, a Stampeding Kodo is a good beast. Maybe even just your run-of-the-mill huge Toad. If you're playing Druid, there's plenty of beasts that you could want. If you're playing Hunter, there's plenty of beasts you could want. There's a lot of stuff out there that you might just want to run a couple of. Dragons, oh my god. Azure Drake, Chromagus, Ysera, Alexstrasza, right? So I actually see this card working pretty well in Freeze Mage, coincidentally. Because it will double the chance that you'll be able to draw Alexstrasza. If you draw Alexstrasza before turn 9, you have it ready to go on turn 9. If you draw the Curator before turn 9, you can play the Curator and draw Alexstrasza, because Alexstrasza is the only dragon in your deck. So then Freeze Mage is going to become a lot more consistent. That being said, are we going to see Firelind's Portal in a Freeze Mage? Probably not. Because it won't need it anymore, because it's going to get Alexstrasza. Let's see. But I could really see Druid making really good use out of this card. There's a lot of great beasts. And, the Corrupted Seer, that's a good Murloc. The Bluegill Warrior, that's a good Murloc. So there's Murlocs out there that you might want to actually choose to put in your deck. And if you can play for 7 mana, a 4/6 with Taunt, and draw 3 cards, even if you just draw 2 cards, that's a really good card. It refills your deck, it gets you ready to go. I would say it's very comparable to the Ancient of Lore pre-nerf, but notice that this card, the Curator, is neutral. So anybody can use it. So now everybody's got their own Ancient of Lore. Pretty cool. I think this is a good card. I think you'll actually see this quite a bit in competitive play. In the arena, it's going to be very hit or miss. But it doesn't really matter because it's a legendary. So you almost never see it. But if somebody does draft it, I think it'll be pretty cool. And the likelihood of you having at least 1 dragon and 1 beast is pretty high. Gun show. So, yeah. I think it's a good card. And in Arena, it will probably see play. Like, people will choose it because there's so many crappy legendaries out there. But it's a legendary. It doesn't really matter in Arena. So for Constructed, I'm giving this an 8. And for Arena, I'm giving it a who gives a shit. I know that's not a number. Next card we're going to have now is the Bookworm. 6 mana, 3/6, Battlecry. If you control a dragon, destroy a creature with 3 health or less. So basically, what you're getting is 3/6 stats on a dragon, and then getting a free Shadow Word Pain. I'd say that's pretty cool. That's pretty good. On turn 6, it's going to be less likely to find a target. Most of the time, by the time you get to 5 or 6, their minions are pretty big, and yours, the likelihood of you actually destroying something with that is not. It's not always going to happen. You're not always going to get the effect, but it is a dragon, so it does have the dragon synergy. And what's really nice, though, is it's 3 attack, not 2. So a lot of people have compared this card to Cabal Shadow Priest. Well, while it's really nice to be able to take control of a minion, I would say it's just as, almost just as good to destroy it. And the likelihood of you getting Cabal Shadow Priest target is actually really low on turn 6. Whereas on turn 6, the likelihood of you getting a Shadow Word Pain target, it's still there, especially against zoo decks. So this is definitely one of those anti-zoo, anti-aggro kind of cards. I think it'll do great. I think it's a neat card. I don't know if it's an auto-include in every dragon deck, but I could see at least one being run. I'm certainly going to stick it into my Dragons of Death Priest deck and see what happens. In Arena, this card will simply be a 6 mana 3/6, because the likelihood of you getting Dragon Synergy is fairly low. If it does go off, great. It'll be a nice, very good swing turn. Definitely playing a card, removing a card is really good. You'll very often get a 2-for-1, maybe even a 3-for-1. So that's really good in Arena. But again, it has to go off. And if this is your only dragon, you're now paying 1 extra mana for a card that is essentially 5 mana worth of stats, maybe even 4. 3/6. There are a few 3/6s for 4 mana, but for the most part, a 3/6 is a 5 mana card. So I'd say about 4.5 mana. So you're paying about 1.5 mana to get the Shadow Word Pain effect. I'd say that's a reasonable cost. Like, the card is reasonably costed. If it costed 5, that'd probably be too cheap. If it costed 7, that'd be way too expensive, and they'd probably have to add some attack or some health to it. So I think it's actually reasonably costed. That being said, if you don't have the Dragon Synergy, like you very often do in Arena, this card is crap. Paying 6 mana for a 3/6 is terrible. So that's really it. In Constructed, I would say in Dragon decks, it's going to get an 8. And I'd say in Arena, it gets like a 2, maybe a 3. Yeah, there we go. Moving on. Bam! Ivory Knight. 6 mana, 4/4. Battlecry. Discover a spell, and then heal your hero equal to the mana cost of the spell that you choose. Neat. I like the concept of this card. I think it's very cool. I like the idea of having healing and discover and a body all in one. I think that's really cool. It combines a lot of neat effects. That being said, I feel like this body is very weak. This is about a 3 to 4 mana cost body to discover a spell and to heal. Right? So let's say it's 3.5. So essentially we're paying 1.25 for the discovery and then 1.25 for the healing. Is that worth it? The tempo loss of playing a 4/4 body on turn 6 is really bad. So actually, I have a feeling that this card is not going to be played on turn 6. This is probably going to be a card that gets played later on in the game. And then it actually becomes better. Oddly enough, the later it gets played, the better this card gets. Because when you do discover a spell, when you add a 10 mana, you're far more likely to be able to utilize said spell. You drop an Ivory Knight, you get a Hammer of Wrath, and you remove something on your opponent's board, and you heal for 4. That's pretty good, right? If you drop an Ivory Knight and you get a Consecration, and you wipe his, and you do 2 damage to everything, that's good too. But what if you drop it on turn 6? Now you can't even use the spell until the next turn. Now they run their freaking 4-drop or 5-drop into your 4/4 and kill, and then basically wipe your whole turn. That's not so good. See what I mean? So it's not an on-curve card. It's not just like a drop. It's not a 6-drop. It's something that's going to take a little while longer. But I could see this fitting into N'Zoth Paladin. I could see this fitting into the Control Paladins, the Heal Paladins, the Healadins. So it's definitely a control card. It's definitely not a control card per se, but something that's in a deck that is meant to play long, that's looking to play the long game. So that being said, it doesn't fit into the aggro paladin archetypes or the divine shield paladin archetypes. So it's somewhat limited in constructed plays, applications. So I would say for constructed, it's going to be about a 6. You know, it'll find a place. Somebody's going to play it. We're all going to try it. And my inclination is that it will probably just be too slow. And the healing won't really affect that much. But it'll be a cool card. In Arena, this card is going to be poop. And the reason I say that is because 6 mana for a 4/4 is poop. You cannot afford to lose this kind of tempo to play this card. It's just not. No, it's not going to happen. Ooh, I discovered a spell. Yay! Well, so fucking what? You're playing a 4/4. Right? Now his 5/5 eats it, and what did you do? You wasted your whole turn. Now you're so far behind in tempo, it doesn't matter if you got a good spell. You know, what kind of spell? What are you going to get? I mean, the only spell that would save you would be Enter the Colosseum. The problem is, though, there's only 2 spells that cost 6 mana. Enter the Colosseum and Avenging Wrath. So, your opponent should already know, when they see that you get healed for 6, what cards they have to play around. It's only those 2 cards. So, the problem is this card kind of gives away what card you've discovered. Most of the time when there's a discover effect, you don't know what it is, so you have to play around everything. In this case, you can narrow down a lot of what happens. Even if you get healed for 1, you know you're basically got a secret. So he just has to play around some secrets. No big deal. So I feel like this card is going to be too predictable and too slow to be any good in Arena. All right. So let's move on. We're now going to take a look here at the Ethereal Peddler. The Ethereal Peddler is a 5 mana, 5/6 that says Battlecry, reduce the cost of cards in your hand from other classes by... So, if we take a look at it from a constructed perspective, the Battlecry is neat. I like this idea. If you can get this effect on 2 cards, this card essentially costs 1 mana. I would totally pay 1 mana for a 5/6. But it doesn't really work that way. A lot of people just take that and they assume sort of a simple mathematical probability. That's not the case. You're paying 5 mana for a 5/6 with a cost reduction on other 2 cards, potentially. So, you notice what Blizzard did here. They realized that this Battlecry effect, in all likelihood, is not going to work. It's a neat effect, but they statted this so heavily, so well. 5 mana, 5/6 is probably the best you can get for 5 mana. The only one that's better would be the Corrupted Healbot at a 6/6, and it has a pretty major drawback. So this card doesn't have a drawback, so it is statted as aggressively as you possibly can set it for a 5-cost card, aside from being a 6/5. 5/6 is still the best, is better than 6/5, I would argue, because it lives against 5/5s and kills 5/5s. So, how the heck do we get this Battlecry effect? We have to have cards from other people's classes. How do we get them? Well, there's a couple of ways. There's Burgle. Burgle. Look at this card. 3 mana. Take 2 cards? I mean, it's a thought steal. It's a worse thought steal. I don't know. I mean, it's okay. 2, you can gang up. You can gang up your opponent's card. And then when you draw it, the Battlecry effect would happen. So you can gang up first, and then play the Ethereal Peddler. Then my favorite, Undercity Huckster. Love this card. This card's a beast. This card's a beast. So if all you did was play Huckster, and you had the Ethereal Peddler, you'd have to hold on to that card. So let's say the Peddler dies, or the Huckster dies on turn 3, right? So you have to hold on to the Peddler, the card that you drew from the Peddler for 2 turns, and then you can get a 2 mana cost reduction on it. Potentially turning it into a 0-cost card, depending upon what it is, or at least a cheaper card. So The nice part is you're playing a very strong minion, probably on curve, and hopefully you get a cost reduction. And if you do, that's going to allow you to get a nice swing turn on turn 6 or 7. It seems like it's a pretty nice card, but right now there's just not enough activators for the Battlecry to really take off. So I would argue that Blizzard understands this. So one, that's why they costed it the way that they did, and two, I believe they're going to release other cards that are going to allow us as rogues to steal our opponent's cards. So if they do that, if they print like one, possibly even two cards that steal opponent's cards, then this card becomes really good. If you potentially hit this on 3 cards, oh my god, it pays for itself. It's essentially a free card. You're just getting a free 5/6. Like, how cool will that be? So I think in Constructed, it will have applications if there's more cards that synergize with it. So I'm going to give this a range score of 5 to 8. So I think at its best it's going to be an 8 if they release other cards, maybe even a 9. But right now it's probably more like a 5. You know, it's just a nice average card, strong card for its cost. In Arena, this card is going to be exactly as good as Pit Fighter, because who knows if you're going to get Burgle, who knows if you're going to get Huckster, who knows if you're going to get these other cards that are supposedly coming. So Pit Fighter is about a 68, so it's about on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably about a 7 or a 6. So that's what I'm going to give it. You know, and there's really not much to say. The likelihood of you hitting the Battlecry is very low. You know, there you go. It's just a nice 5 mana 5/6. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, having a better offering bonus on that is really good. So rogues are just going to have some nice beefy bodies to work with. So it's pretty good. Let's move on. We got the legendary Barnes, 4 mana, 3/4, Battlecry, summon a 1/1 copy of a random minion in your deck. You know, when I first saw this card, I was like, whoopity fucking do. Yay, I get a weaker Yeti. Meh, who cares? But then I thought about it some more, and if you think about it, if you have Death Rattle effects, or you have End of Turn effects, or you have some sort of like persistent ongoing effect, Barnes is going to be really good to summon a 1/1 copy of that minion. Also, anything that Barnes summons is a copy, so it's not the actual card itself, so you still have the original. You could potentially draw the original the next turn, so that'd be really great too. You could easily have 2 Sylvanas on board, you know, a 1/1 and a 5/5. So the potential for Barnes to be crazy is way up there. And so, again, this is another one of those cards that I feel like encourages different deck building, because it's going to ask you to now think about, well, how do I want to construct my deck? If I have Barnes, I want to make sure that any minion he summons is not just some random stupid 1/1. It's going to have an effect. Even if that effect is just taunt, that's still pretty good. A 3/4 and a 1/1 taunt, I'll take that. For 4 mana, that seems worth it. You know, so he's a little understated at 3/4, right? He should be a 4/5 or a 4/4 on turn 4. But because we're getting this extra 1/1, it's still a 4/5. It's still a Yeti, even though its stat distribution is poor. But the good news is, if you get anything with an end of turn effect or a death rattle effect, this card becomes very powerful and should definitely be included in almost all decks. So, Constructed, this card gets a 9. I believe we're going to see this in almost every deck. It fits almost every archetype. Even in an aggro deck, I can see this card working. You know, it's still got a good stat. It's still got a good stat line, and you know, any sort of 1/1 it picks up is probably going to be pretty good. So yeah, I'm going to give this a 9. In Arena, it's also good. It's also a 9. Yes, it's a legendary. Yes, you're probably never going to see it, but just getting a random 1/1, that's pretty good. You know, it's just an extra, a little ping, a little body on the board. Why not? We'll take it. You know, and 3/4 is relatively sturdy and stands up to most trades up with most 2-drops and 3-drops, and you know, probably gets eaten by a lot of 4-drops, but you still have the 1/1 there, and like I said, if the 1/1 has any sort of ability on it, bonus. So Barnes, good card. I like it. Moving on. The next card is Morose. 3 mana, 1/1 stealth. At the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 Steward. This card is garbage. It's terrible. It is a worse Imp Master. Yes, it has stealth. But there's a little thing called Ravaging Ghoul. There's a little thing called AoE for every fucking class. Fan of Knives. You heard of these things? There's just so many ways to just clear a 1/1. You know, even if it does have stealth. So the only way it's going to be good is if you buff it to the point to where a 1 damage AoE isn't going to kill it. So if this was a 1/2, I would say it was really good. Because you would just keep getting 1/1s over and over and over again. Imagine this with Steward of Darkshire in a Paladin deck. Right? Imagine this with Darkshire Councilman. Just buffing and buffing and buffing and buffing. Imagine this with fucking Knife Juggler. Right? It's a pretty good card. But it's a 1/1. It's too easy. It just dies. So I think it's going to have a lot of applications. But I think it's one of those cards that's going to require another card to buff it. And then it will be good. And then it will continue to generate value. I mean, think of this card in Druid. You know, just having a bunch of 1/1 tokens and Savage Roar, kaboom! So, I think it can have applications. I think it can work. But again, I think it's too much of a hassle. It's just not a good card in and of itself. It just requires other things to help it out. So it's a little too combo-oriented, a little too synergistic-oriented, I think, to make it in Constructed. And I'm giving it a 3. In Arena, this card is poop. I take that back. It's not poop. Okay, 1, it's a legendary, so you're never going to see it. And 2, it's actually much harder to clear a 1/1. So in Arena, it'll be pretty good. But it's still not going to be better than like a 5. You know? They're going to be... I'm sure there's a lot of other legendaries you're going to want above this. And quite frankly, the tempo loss that you get by playing this on turn 3 is so big. You know? I mean, it's just... The 1/1s will still get eaten by whatever's out there. And then all your opponent has to do is find a little bit of damage and it's dead. But as long as you keep it stealth, it's not too bad. I'm giving it a 3 in Arena 2. Let's move on. 2 mana. Kindly Grandmother. It's a 1/1 with a death rattle that says summon a 3/2 Big Bad Wolf. The Kindly Grandmother is a beast. The 3/2 is also a beast. So, this is another death rattle card for Hunter. And it seems like Blizzard is really trying to push the death rattle Hunter archetype. And I love it, frankly. I think sticky death rattle minions are awesome. And I personally think they're very fun. Because you always have a board. Fun and interactive. I think this will really help Hunter out because Hunter does not have very good 2-drops. I'm running a Tempo Beast Hunter deck right now, and my 2-drops are Huge Toad and King's Elec. Who gives a flying fuck? I mean, they're just 2-drops to be 2-drops. I just need them because I need the tempo. I need something to play on those turns. And they're beasts, so they work, I guess. You know, whereas the Kindly Grandmother, I mean, you're getting a 1/1 that turns into a 3/2. So you're getting a ping, and then you're getting a 3/2. So if you think of it, compare it to the Huge Toad, it's like you get to direct the ping first, then you get the 3/2 body. I think that's much better than getting a 3/2 body and then a random ping once that 3/2 body dies. I would much rather be able to point where I want to go. And it works with Abusive Sergeant, right? You buff it to a 3/1, you kill off a 3-drop, and then you get a 3/2 behind it. That's great. You know, a 3/2 is basically a 2-drop. So essentially what you're doing is you're getting a 1-drop, a 1/1, a weak 1-drop that summons a relatively strong 2-drop. That's great. That's super upgrade. That's way better than the Twilight Summoner. 4 mana, 1/1, summon a 5/5. Too slow. Not strong enough. Barely sees any play. Whereas I feel like Kindly Grandmother is going to see a lot of play. The nice part about this too is it actually combos with Princess Huhuran. So, is the Death Rattle Huhuran tempo deck going to become viable? I hope so. I really do. Because I would love to play that kind of hunter. I think that kind of hunter would be really fun. And wouldn't just be a face version of a hunter. So, Kindly Grandmother, in my opinion, is getting a 9 for Constructed. For Arena, this card is a 10. Just tempo, 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 tempo. Your ability to play this card, fight for the board. This could be a 2-for-1 card. Can you imagine 2-for-1ing? With just one card on turn 2? How great would that be? It trades with Paladin Hero Powers and leaves a 3-2, right? Your opponent might want to ping it off. He might not want to ping it off, just because it's going to spawn a 3-2. It's so difficult to play around this card. It's so difficult to do something about this card that's not going to be detrimental to your opponent. So, I really like this card in Arena. I think it's going to be great. And, the 3-2 body will trade up with 3/3s and 4/3s. So, potentially you could kill his 1-drop, and then you could kill his 2-drop or 3-drop. That's great. That's, anytime you can get a 2-for-1 in Arena, I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Really good card. Death Rattle card. The next card is Babbling Book. 1 mana, 1/1, add a random mage spell to your hand. Neat. Is it better than Mana Worm? No. Could it see play in a Tempo Mage deck? Maybe. Probably not. Getting a random mage spell is nice. It'll help enable Flamewaker. But I don't see it working in Tempo Mage. However, I do see it working in a value style spell-based mage. Basically a mage where all they're trying to do is outvalue their opponent and grind them down. So it's a very sort of control, spell-heavy mage, which later on drops big bombs and probably plays a lot of giants, and is looking to just have these big swing turns, control the board, and prevent you from playing anything. You see this a lot in Magic the Gathering, these black-blue decks that have a lot of removal and tend to only play stuff on their opponent's turn. And while this is Hearthstone and you don't have quite that same option, I could see having a very spell-heavy, removal-heavy based deck that plays this card, probably with Yogg-Saron too. And that's sort of the goal. The goal is to make a really big Yogg-Saron and clear the board, and then just have a bunch of burn spells and kill your opponent. And it's going to be very low minion-y, and probably will run Alexstrasza. So, more of a freeze mage. I could see this working in freeze mage, instead of a loot hoarder. This is like a loot hoarder that gets you a spell. So, it's kind of nice. It cycles itself, basically. I think it could be very versatile and could have a lot of uses. So, in Constructed, thumbs up. I'm going to give this a 7. In Arena, this is going to be great. It's going to be great. It's a 1-drop. It's a rare, but it's a 1-drop that gives you a spell, so it automatically cycles itself. It's a free 1/1, basically. So you're going to get card advantage out of this. I mean, how could it be bad? There's no way it could be bad. Next up is Enchanted Raven. 1 mana, 2/2, Beast. The power creep is real! The sky is falling! A 1 mana 2/2? Are you insane? How can this be? No, impossible! Okay, stop freaking out. It's a 2/2. Yes, it's on 1 mana. Whoopity do. Zombie Chow is still better than this card. Yes, I know Zombie Chow's not a standard anymore, but we're freaking out, people. Does this make Beast Druid good? It could. 1 mana, 2/2, and then Marco Yashiraj gives you a 4/4 on turn 2 with charge, and then you draw a card. That's a great combo. What if you don't have Marco Yashiraj? It's still just a 2/2. And then a 2/3 eats it. So, is it really that good? I don't think so. You know, this is not game changing, meta changing. Oh my god, freaking the fuck out. It's good. It's a solid card. It's a really good card. I'm glad that it's Druid only because I don't think every class should have access to a 1 mana 2/2. You know, but somebody asked me this the other day, or it was just like, you know, what if you had an overstated minion on every cost, right? Just a slightly overstated minion at every cost, but it had no effect. Would you play them? And I go, yes, I would. In a Cthulhu deck. That's basically what a Cthulhu deck is, right? It's aggressively statted minions that build up to Cthulhu, and then Cthulhu dumps 20 damage and kills you. So that's what they're good for. A card like this, there's no Cthulhu buff there. Where's the 1 mana Cthulhu buff card? We don't have it. It's not there. So I don't really care about this card. I don't think it's that good. I think it's a 7. You know, I think it's a nice, aggressively statted, overstatted minion, and it'll enable some Beast Druid archetypes. But I don't think it's gonna make the Beast Druid any like really good. It's not gonna make it tier 1, maybe tier 3, but you know, it's a step in the right direction. It's definitely a step in the right direction. I think if there's more Beast synergy cards, like buff cards, then this card could be very good, right? Mark Yashiraj is not enough. If there's another card that works off a Beast, if there's like a 3 mana card that says if you can, or like a 2 mana card or a 3 mana card that's like, if you control a Beast, give it +1/+1 or +2/+1 or +1/+2, yeah, then this card becomes OP because it enables combos. And that's what I think a 1-drop card should be, is something that not only is very good on turn 1, but can enable other combos to be effective when you top deck it later on in the game. So until that happens, though, it's good. In Arena, this card is fantastic. This is a 10. And this is where I feel like all the hype is coming in. A 1 mana 2/2 is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Because it kills almost, you know, it kills 3/2s. It definitely kills 1/2. It trades up with 1/2s, or it eats 1/2s, and just being able to have that and being able to continue to tempo out is really important. So last but not least, we have Malkizar's Imp. I hope I'm saying that right. 1 mana, 1/3. Whenever you discard a card, draw a card. Neat. I like this card a lot. There are so many cards that involve discarding a card early on that are unplayable. Well, not so many. There's Darkshire Librarian, there's Succubus. Basically, I want to play Succubus on turn 2 without getting the drawback and feeling like a dumbass for tossing away my Soulfire or my fucking Mal'Ganis. I like the idea that this card presents. I like that it's 1 mana too. So you can drop this, drop Doomguard, and draw 2 cards again. You can drop this, play Dark Bargain, get your 2 cards back. You can play this and Tiny Knight of Evil, and then play, you know, then play Succubus, buff the Tiny Knight of Evil, draw a card. So it enables discard Warlock to actually maybe be a real thing. Is it going to be better than Zoo? Fuck no, it's not going to be better than Zoo. Zoo is awesome. Zoo is tier 1. But it could enable a very interesting, neat archetype and provide for a slightly more mid-rangey or early aggro-powered kind of deck from Warlock. So, in Constructed, I just don't know. It really kind of depends on the other cards. Depends if there's going to be other discard cards or cards that work off being discarded. You know, is this going to make you want to play Fist of Jaraxxus? Maybe. That'd be kind of neat. I can definitely see that. So I'm gonna give it a range. I'm gonna give it a range of 4 to 7. I don't think it's ever gonna be that good because I don't think it'll be ever better than the other Zoo cards and the other Zoo 1-drops. That being said, if you can get it to draw even 1 card, it's already worth it. And then that will allow you to get more powerful minions out. In Arena, this card is just a 1 mana 1/3. It's a 5. You know, it's nice. It's good to have. It's statted strongly, it'll survive, but it's not going to make very much impact on the board. And you'd much rather have all the other 1-drops that Warlock has instead of this card. So yeah, that's it. Really want to thank you for watching this card review video for 1/9 Karazhan. And once we get approximately 10 additional cards, we're going to do another video. There's a total of 47 cards, so my thinking is we'll do probably 4 videos. I'll probably do like 12 or 13 cards each. And really looking forward to it, man. You know, maybe I might just do only one video after this. Who knows? But I can't wait. Can't wait for the adventure. It's $20 to buy, which is cheap. You know, we're going to get 40 new cards. It's worth it. And so, yeah, thank you very much. Please subscribe down here at the bottom. Please like the video. Please share it on Facebook. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Rockstar out.